Bring Your Pet Rock to Work Day, Unmoving, Unbothered, Unemployed, Until Now. By David Russo. Chapter 1. Rocky Start. Your alarm blares. You slap it into silence and stare at the ceiling, debating life choices, capitalism, and whether cereal counts as a real breakfast. It's Monday. But not just any Monday. Bring Your Pet Rock to Work Day, a company initiative designed to boost morale and promote stability in the workplace. You're not sure if it's a joke or a cry for help from HR, but you take it seriously. After all, Rocky has been waiting his whole life for this. Probably. You shuffle over to the bookshelf, where Rocky sits between a dusty succulent and 3 unread self-help books. He is, as always, silent, stoic, slightly sparkly. Big day, bud, you say, brushing a bit of lint off his rounded edge. You ready? No response. Of course. Rocky has boundaries. You hold up 2 TIs, 1 Navy, one with tiny ducks on it. Which one says I'm emotionally stable, but still fun at meetings? Rocky remains unbothered. Yeah, Navy it is. You tuck him carefully into your briefcase, surrounded by bubble wrap and a granola bar. He's heavier than expected. Symbolically, probably. Emotionally, definitely. On your way out, your roommate gives you a look. You seriously taking that thing to work? You glance down at the briefcase. It's Bring Your Pet Rock to Work Day. Company-wide. Corporate sanction. He snorts. I thought that was a joke. You shrug. It's only a joke if no one commits. We're committed. In the elevator, a woman with 3 chihuahuas and a parrot eyes your briefcase suspiciously. You give her a polite nod. She does not return it. Her parrot squawks, HR violation. Rocky says nothing. As you walk to the train, you rehearse what you'll say when people ask questions. You figure you'll keep it simple. This is Rocky. He's here for emotional support and PowerPoint synergy. Or maybe, he's shadowing me. Internship. Unpaid. Obviously, you realize you're nervous. You're about to introduce your rock to the office. To people. You wonder if this is what parents feel like on the first day of school. The train pulls up with a metallic screech. It's packed. You wedge yourself into a corner. Rocky, in the briefcase, somehow ends up on the seat beside you. Of course, as the train lurches forward, you glance down. He's perfectly still, unfazed. The picture of composure. A man across from you nods toward the briefcase. Is that your emotional support rock? You pause. Yeah, first day on the job. The man nods solemnly. We need more like him. You nod back. We really do. At your stop, you grab your bag and head toward the office. Your heart's racing a bit, but Rocky is cool as ever. Maybe even cold. You'll check for warmth later. It feels like a team-building activity. You step into the lobby and whisper, "We made it." Rocky remains silent as usual. But somehow, you know deep down he's proud, or at least, he's not rolling away, which is basically the same thing. Chapter 2. Rolling through the commute. The platform is crowded. Half-asleep commuters jostle for position, clutching coffee like it's the last sacred relic of a dying civilization. You cradle your briefcase with both hands like a newborn. Inside, Rocky, swaddled in bubble wrap and dignity. The train screeches in, doors slide open, and humanity surges forward like a spreadsheet crashing in real time. You're swept along for the ride. There's only one seat left. Instinct kicks and you make for it. So does a teenager with AirPods and no soul. You glance down at the briefcase, then you sigh and place it gently on the seat. The teenager gives you a look that says seriously, but you just raise your eyebrows and nod toward the bag. He looks confused. You whisper, he's earned it. The door's close. You hang from the ceiling bar, swaying slightly as the train lurches forward. Rocky, nestled in your briefcase on the seat, remains perfectly still. A natural commuter, unshaken by movement, unbothered by delays. You envy him. The man across from you notices the bag. You know your luggage is sitting? He says. You nod. Not luggage. That's Rocky. He blinks. Is that a rock? You unzip the top just slightly so Rocky's smooth, speckled surface peeks out. Company policy, you say. Bring Your Pet Rock to Work Day. He stares. You stare back. There's a long pause. Then he says, I brought a hamster once. Didn't go great. Rocky doesn't chew wires, you say. He's emotionally stable and surprisingly low maintenance. A kid 2 rows down peeks over the seat. Is it real? You consider this as real as my salary, you say. The kid shrinks back. His mother glares at you. Rocky remains unfazed. The train slows at Midtown. A few people shuffle off. A woman with a yoga mat boards sees the open seat next to Rocky and starts to sit. You hold up a hand. Sorry, occupied. She stares at the briefcase. By who? You pause. By whom? She blinks. You tap the case. Rocky. He doesn't do well standing. No feet. She gives you the kind of look reserved for tax auditors and people who don't return shopping carts. Then she walks away. You whisper to the case, "You're welcome." Rocky says nothing. Of course, the train jerks. You stumble. Rocky does not. In many ways, he's the perfect commuter. Quiet, still, introspective. Probably listening to the low hum of the tracks and contemplating geological time. You, meanwhile, are sweating through your shirt and questioning your life decisions. As the train approaches your stop, you tighten your grip on the briefcase and brace yourself. You ready for this? You ask. Rocky, as always, offers no reply. But he doesn't roll away either, and that, you think, is enough. The doors slide open. You step out into the city, swarm emails to send, deadlines to ignore, coworkers to nod at in elevators. Rocky, in your bag, is a silent sentinel. Your grounding force, literally. And so, with the poise of a man who has nothing left to lose and a rock who has everything to prove, you head toward the office, together. Chapter 3, Desk Duties and Paperweight Power. You arrive at your desk at exactly 8:58 a.m. 2 minutes early. Enough time to look productive without setting a dangerous precedent. You gently unzip your briefcase and lift Rocky out with the reverence of someone revealing a rare artifact. Or a grenade. Both feel equally risky in this office. He's cool to the touch. Heavy. Emotionally and geologically, you place him on your desk, center stage. The open office hums around you, keyboards clacking like tiny tap dancers, printers shrieking in binary agony, someone microwaving fish against God and HR's will. Rocky doesn't flinch. Your coworker Tanya walks by, double takes, then reverses like she hit an invisible wall. Is that? Yes. She squints. That's a rock. You nod. He's called Rocky. She pauses. Is this a therapy thing? You lean back in your chair and fold your hands. No, it's bring your pet rock to work day. Didn't you get the memo? She blinks. We get a lot of memos. You point at Rocky. He flattens them. Tanya does not laugh. She just slowly backs away, as though the rock might bite. You turn back to your monitor. Your to-do list is aggressive. 16 emails, 3 spreadsheets, and a presentation titled Q4 Synergy Alignment Matrix. You're not sure what it means. You suspect no one is. Rocky sits on top of the printed agenda like a medieval paperweight. Silent, steady, slightly judging. You sip your coffee and glance at him. I'm gonna be honest, man. It's not a good list. He doesn't disagree. You spend the next 20 minutes pretending to work. Occasionally, you click things. Occasionally, you sigh. Sometimes both at once. Rocky continues his silent vigil. Your boss, Greg, appears without warning. He has the unsettling ability to materialize out of nowhere. Like a ninja in Dockers, he stops in front of your desk and frowns. What's that? That, you say with an air of corporate pride, is Rocky. He's observing. Quality assurance. Greg tilts his head. He's a rock. You nod. And yet he's the most dependable member of this team. Greg stares at you. Then at Rocky. Does he need a badge? You pause. Only if he's doing payroll, which I don't recommend. Greg makes a noise like a confused goose and walks away. You're not sure if that's approval or HR in the making. 10 minutes later, someone from accounting drops by and offers Rocky a biscotti. He's gluten-free, you say. She nods, not missing a beat. Of course. He looks it. You wonder if maybe the office has gone mad. Or maybe you have. Or maybe this is what peace looks like, a smooth, silent companion holding down your paperwork and your sanity in equal measure. At exactly 10 o'clock a.m., you have a video call. You angle your webcam slightly so Rocky is visible on screen beside you. Midway through the call, someone messages, "Who's the new guy?" You reply, "Rocky. He's shadowing me." Efficiency analyst. Nobody questions it. Nobody questions anything anymore. By lunchtime, Rocky has earned a promotion. He's now unofficially in charge of morale. People stop by and give him a respectful nod. You nod back on his behalf. He is, after all, your rock. Chapter 4, Office Politics and Pebble Perks. By 1:15 p.m., Rocky has developed a reputation, not for being outspoken, obviously, but for something far more powerful in this office ecosystem: stillness. In a world of Slack pings, passive-aggressive post-its, and the slow erosion of ergonomic chairs, Rocky is unbothered, untouched, Uncancelable, you're in the break room pouring decaf because you've already had 3 real coffees and 1 accidental espresso when Tanya reappears. She nods toward your desk like there's a minor deity sitting there. So, she says, casual but curious, what's the deal with the rock? You stir your coffee. Rocky. He prefers to be addressed by name. Tanya raises an eyebrow. Right. Rocky. You lean against the counter. He's here for observational analysis. Passive influence. Anchoring energy. She stares at you. You shrug. Also, paperweight. Tanya nods slowly. Well, I just heard someone from sales offered him a position. You blink. A what? A desk. In the window. You glance toward sales, a wild, lawless territory where motivational posters go to die. You imagine Rocky staring out the 17th floor window, contemplating the traffic, absorbing passive aggression through glass. Thanks, you say. But he's not looking to transfer. Just then, Carl from IT walks in, holding a tiny espresso cup. Did Rocky get the invite to the coffee club? He asks. Tanya laughs. He doesn't drink coffee, Carl shrugs. We'll make an exception. Cold brew only. No pressure. You clear your throat. Rocky prefers to remain grounded. Carl nods solemnly. Respect. This is how it starts. By PM, someone has given Rocky a lanyard. By 2:30, he has a sticky note nameplate on the desk that reads, Rocky, morale strategy immovable force. People stop by just to say hi. Someone leaves him a tiny succulent. Another offers a crystal. One intern sets a single jelly bean next to him for company. You walk past the water cooler and overhear whispers. He's very centered. I feel calmer just looking at him. He hasn't blinked once. In the copy room, rumors swirl. He's from corporate. Someone says, undercover. No, he's from consulting. You can tell by the energy. By 3:45, 2 middle managers are debating whether he's an earth sign. You return to your desk and find someone sitting in your chair. Hey, you say. They look up. Sorry, Rocky seemed like he wanted a meeting. You gently gesture toward the door. He doesn't do drop-ins. The person nods respectfully and backs away. Rocky, true to form, hasn't moved. You sit down and whisper, you good? He says nothing, of course, but you swear. He looks a little taller. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe it's the power. You start typing an email, but you pause. Just so you know, you mutter, this fame? It's fleeting. You stay humble. Still no response, which is, frankly, the most humble move imaginable. By PM, someone has started an internal Slack channel, Rock Solid Wisdom. It already has 47 members. You log off for the day. Rocky stays. Naturally, he's more than a desk ornament now. He's a movement, a mystery, a mood. And you? You're just trying to keep up. Chapter 5, Meeting Mastermind. It's 9:59 a.m. You're standing outside the conference room with your laptop, a rapidly cooling coffee, and a rock in your hands. Inside, the weekly Teams sync. Half status updates, half ritual suffering. You glance down at Rocky. You don't have to come. I can say you had a scheduling conflict. He offers no reply. You nod. Right. Power move. You open the door and step in. The room is a rectangle of despair, a flickering fluorescent light, 12 chairs of varying ergonomic quality, and a projector that hums with existential dread. Greg, your manager, is already inside, flipping through a stack of papers he won't read. You choose a seat toward the middle, place Rocky squarely in front of you on the table, and boot up your laptop. The screen freezes. Immediately. Great start, you whisper. Rocky is unbothered. Tanya walks in, stops, and gives a tiny bow toward your rock. You can't tell if it's sarcastic or sincere. Possibly both. Greg doesn't look up. All right, people, let's get this rolling. You glance at Rocky. Appropriate wording. One by one, your coworkers deliver updates. Words like pivot, bandwidth, and synergy float across the table like ghosts of failed projects. It's your turn. You take a deep breath, still waiting on client feedback for the cue for rollout. We're 80% on budget, 100% on vibes. No one laughs, except Carl from IT, who gives you a thumbs up and mouths, vibes matter. Greg raises an eyebrow. And the analysis, doc? You gesture to Rocky. Rocky's reviewing it. For clarity, he's got a strong grasp of silence-based communication. Greg frowns. He's a rock. You nod. Exactly. There's a long pause. Then, strangely, Greg turns to Rocky. Well, thoughts? Rocky says nothing. Of course. But somehow, the silence lands. The room stills. Tanya leans forward, blinking. I think he's right, she says. Carl tilts his head. It's about priorities. We've been too reactive. Greg nods slowly, as if Rocky has just spoken directly into his brain. You say nothing. You sip your coffee. Rocky sits still. The meeting continues. Charts are discussed. Metrics are misquoted. The projector dies halfway through a PowerPoint. You'd panic normally, but Rocky just exists, and people take that as strategy. Eventually, Greg sets down his pen. All right, let's table the rest for next week. Good input, team. Especially, he glances at your desk. Rocky, you pack up your laptop pretending you're not stunned. As you reach for Rocky, Greg stops you. Actually, would Rocky be open to sitting in on leadership planning this afternoon? Totally optional, but we'd value his insight. You look down at your rock. I'll check his calendar. Greg nods like that's a real thing. You walk out of the meeting 10 minutes early. Victorious, confused, deeply undercaffeinated. Rocky, as always, is cool, collected, and now, apparently, an executive consultant. You whisper as you walk past the break room. What are you? He doesn't answer, which, honestly, feels like the most powerful response of all. Chapter 6, Cubicle Companion. You return from the meeting to find something different. Your cubicle, normally an unremarkable 6x6 of beige mediocrity, has been transformed. There's now a mini cubicle inside your cubicle, and inside that, Rocky, made entirely of sticky notes, pastel walls, a tiny desk fashioned from a granola bar box, and what looks like a laminated employee badge taped to a paperclip stand. You stare. Tanya peeks over your partition. Surprise! We thought Rocky deserved his own space. You know, for focus. Carl from IT leans in behind her. And ergonomics. Look, we even gave him a mousepad. You glance over. It's a coaster with a picture of a cat wearing glasses. He looks efficient, you say. Tanya beams. He's our rock star analyst now. You pause. Was that intentional? She winks and disappears. You sit down slowly, watching Rocky in his cubicle within a cubicle, like a nesting doll of professionalism. Do you like it? You ask quietly. He doesn't answer, obviously, but you swear he looks settled. A post-it above his desk reads, "Don't take life for granted." Rocky, probably. Someone's drawn him a tiny whiteboard. It says, to do, sit, judge, be. You try to focus on your actual work. You open your inbox. 72 unread emails. 14 flagged. 0 you want to deal with. You sigh. Help me out here. Rocky stares at your screen with his usual unwavering intensity. You read the first email aloud. Team, circling back on the queue for scope alignment for stakeholder visibility. You stop. Do they even know what they're saying? Rocky does not reply. You delete the email. It feels right. Carl walks by again, carrying a tangled mess of wires. He pauses. You know, I saw someone from finance talking to Rocky earlier. You raise an eyebrow. About what? Spreadsheet philosophy, I think. Or maybe margins. Hard to tell. You nod. He has a calming presence. Carl looks around, then whispers, I haven't opened Excel all day. I just feel like I could. If Rocky needed me to. You both look at the rock. Still. Silent. Supreme. By mid-afternoon, Rocky has a visitor, an intern with wide eyes and a notebook. Hi, she says nervously. I heard Rocky's good at, focus? You nod solemnly. Laser focus. Absolute clarity. She sits cross-legged on the floor in front of his sticky note cubicle. I'm just gonna absorb the vibe, if that's okay. You shrug. He doesn't mind. She sits in silence. It lasts 11 minutes. No one speaks. Then she stands, thanks you both, and leaves looking oddly serene. You glance at Rocky. You're mentoring interns now? When were you going to tell me? No response. You open a spreadsheet mostly out of guilt. The numbers blur together. You format a cell. Delete it. Undo. Redo. Wonder what any of it means. Then Rocky catches your eye, or maybe just your soul. You try again. Slowly, carefully, and suddenly, it starts to make sense. You whisper, you are an Excel expert. Outside your cubicle, the office drones on deadlines, coffee slurps, the occasional sigh of a man who just remembered he's on a PM Zoom. But in your small, sticky note sanctuary, Rocky sits in his paper fortress. Guardian of calm, lord of spreadsheets, silent coworker, cubicle king. You lean back in your chair, glance over at him, and nod. He doesn't nod back, but you know, You both get it. Chapter 7. Lunchroom Logistics. Lunchtime hits like a wave of low expectations and recycled leftovers. You drag yourself toward the cafeteria, clutching your briefcase, Rocky's temporary home, like it's a life raft. You open the door and are immediately hit by a medley of smells: yesterday's lasagna, burnt popcorn, and something suspiciously like despair. Rocky, carefully placed in your briefcase, stays perfectly still as usual. You scan the room for an open table. The lunchroom is buzzing. Groups huddle over their food, phones, or existential crises. You find a spot next to Janice from marketing, who's dissecting her quinoa salad with the precision of a neurosurgeon. Lunch, she offers. You glance down at Rocky. He's good, thanks. Very mineral-based diet. Janice blinks. Mineral-based. You nod. All natural. No additives. No preservatives. She shrugs. To each their own. You unzip the briefcase slightly, revealing Rocky's smooth surface. The lunchroom goes momentarily quiet. A few heads turn. You swear you hear someone whisper, "Is that a rock?" Janice laughs. You really brought him. Company policy, you say. Unwritten, but strongly enforced. Janice shakes her head and returns to her salad. You pull out your own lunch, a hastily packed tuna sandwich and an apple. You eye Rocky again. You want a bite? You joke. Rocky remains unmoved. You shrug and start eating. One sandwich down. You look at the second. Janice eyes it with suspicion. Double lunch? She asks. You grin. One for me, one for Rocky. Janice raises an eyebrow. Before you can elaborate, Carl from IT approaches, holding a coffee cup. I brought cold brew for Rocky, he says solemnly, setting it down next to your briefcase. Thanks, you say. He only drinks cold brew. Carl nods. I figured. Warm coffee would disturb his zen. You sip your tuna, watching the room. A coworker, Nate from finance, sidles over and leans in. Is Rocky real? You glance at Rocky, who is very much real in his own unmovable way. As real as your budget forecasts, you say. Nate chuckles. Fair point. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes from the table behind you. Someone's lunch tray has toppled. Soup spills like a slow-motion disaster. People jump to help. Rocky remains perfectly still. You smile. Steady as ever. Janice leans over. You know, for a rock, he really gets around. You laugh. He's the best commuter I've ever had. Nearby, the intern from yesterday's mentoring session approaches, clutching a reusable water bottle. Hey, she says quietly, I tried meditating with Rocky. Felt really calm. You nod. He's good for morale. She smiles. Do you think he likes tuna? You glance at the half-eaten sandwich. He's more of a mineral guy. She laughs softly. Guess that explains the cold brew. Suddenly, Rocky shifts slightly. You blink. No, wait. That was just a tremor from the table, or maybe a subtle nod. You decide to believe it was a nod. As lunch winds down, people start packing up, buzzing with renewed energy. You zip Rocky back into the briefcase. Ready to head back? He says nothing, but you can tell you're both ready. Chapter 8. HR and hard conversations. The afternoon haze settles in just as the soft knock comes at your cubicle wall. You glance up from your screen, a dizzying spreadsheet that looks more like abstract art, to see Linda from HR standing there, clipboard in hand and an expression somewhere between curiosity and caution. Hi, she says, voice steady but careful. Can we talk for a moment? About your colleague. You nod, patting the spot beside you where Rocky sits in his sticky note cubicle, motionless as ever. Of course, you say, trying to sound casual, which is impossible when HR is involved and your colleague is literally a rock. Linda pulls up a chair and sits down. Look, I've been getting some questions. You raise an eyebrow. About Rocky. She sighs, adjusting her glasses. Yes, about Rocky. You nod solemnly. I'm happy to answer any concerns. Linda flips through her notes. Is Rocky an employee? Because, well, technically, he's an inanimate object. You shrug. He's very dependable. Never calls in sick. Zero drama. Linda blinks. Right. But there are things like performance reviews, benefits, payroll. You cut in. Rocky doesn't look for anything permanent. She gives a small smile. We've had people asking about accommodations, ergonomics, breaks, diet. You chuckle. He's very minimal. Mineral-based diet only. Linda laughs softly. Cold brew, right? Cold brew only. They share a glance, the kind that says maybe this is fine. Linda leans in slightly. You're aware that HR has to ensure everyone's included and supported, even the quiet ones. You nod. Rocky is the quietest, she smiles, and most grounded. I like that. You can tell this is less an interrogation and more an appreciation session. Honestly, Linda says, Rocky sets a great example. The office has been calmer since he arrived. More focused. You nod. He's got that effect. She flips to another page. We want to formalize his role. Model employee. Anchor of the team. You blink. You mean, like a full-time position? Linda shrugs. More like honorary. No payroll, no insurance, but recognition. You smile, surprised. I think he'd appreciate that. Linda stands. Great. I'll draft something up. In the meantime, any special requests? For Rocky? You think for a moment. Maybe more sticky notes for his cubicle, and a tiny coffee mug. She laughs. Consider it done. As Linda leaves, you look at Rocky. You've got HR in your corner now. Rocky, as always, remains unmoving. Yet somehow, it feels like a nod. Later, you hear the office buzzing with new energy. Tanya stops by, grinning. Did you hear? HR gave Rocky model employee status. You nod. Yeah. Feels official. Carl joins, sipping his usual cold brew. I think I need to step up my game. Janice from marketing appears, holding a miniature Employee of the Month certificate. We made this for Rocky, she says proudly. You laugh. Guess he's not just a paperweight anymore. The office feels a little warmer, quieter, less frantic. You realize Rocky's presence has done more than hold down papers, he's held down the chaos. As you glance at him sitting still in his sticky note fortress, you whisper, you're officially part of the team now. No reply naturally, but the silence speaks volumes. Chapter 9, The Zen of Stillness. The afternoon crash doesn't creep in, it slams into you. Keyboard slow. Coffee loses its magic. The hum of the office fades into a sleepy haze. You're staring at your monitor, eyes half closed, emails melting into a blur of color and motion. When a soft tap lands on your shoulder, it's Tanya, holding a small folded note like it's top secret. Rocky's running a mindfulness thing in the break room, she whispers. Come. You hesitate, then nod anything to escape the gravitational pull of your chair. A small group drifts down the hallway, sneakers squeaking against the tiles. Inside the break room, Rocky sits motionless in the center, perched regally atop a sticky note cushion. Around him, a ring of chairs, a few post-its scattered like confetti, each scribbled with words breathe, center, calm. Tanya leans over and says, told you, he's a natural. You take a seat. Carl from IT clutches his cold brew like a life raft. Janice from marketing already looks enlightened, eyes closed, hands resting on her knees. The room quiets. The usual soundtrack of clicks and chatter evaporates. Tanya's voice floats through the air. Let's start by breathing. In through the nose. Hold. You inhale. The silence expands. And out. The tension slips off your shoulders like a coat. You glance at Rocky, utterly still, perfectly grounded. Tanya continues, picture yourself as Rocky. Calm. Present. Unshaken by chaos. You try. No deadlines. No Slack pings. No buzzing phone, just quiet. Carl murmurs, think I'm getting it. Janice smiles without opening her eyes. The second hand ticks slower. For a moment, time itself feels merciful. Then beep, beep, beep. The fire alarm blares. Everyone jolts upright, except Rocky. Unmoved, unbothered. When the noise dies, Tanya chuckles. See? Not even chaos can shake our guru. Laughter ripples around the circle. When it's over, no one rushes out. They linger, lighter somehow. Carl exhales. We should do this every day. Janice nods. Rocky's got a gift. You look down at the rock that started it all. You're wiser than you look. He offers no reply, of course, but maybe silence is the lesson. Back at your desk, the flood of messages begins again. But something's different. You breathe. You focus. And this time, instead of feeling buried, you feel balanced. Thanks, Rocky, you whisper. The world hums on. You stay still, unshaken, solid. Chapter 10, The Pitch and the Promotion. Today's the day. The room is filled, executives, clients, teammates all waiting. You stand at the front, laptop connected, slides ready. And beside you on the table, Rocky. Calm, eternal. You lean in and whisper, let's rock this. As always, no response. That's his way. The lights dim. Your voice steadies as you launch into the presentation charts, forecasts, projections. Confidence flows, but the butterflies in your stomach still beat their wings. Then zap, the projector sputters and dies. Your laptop freezes, murmurs rise. The air thickens with an ease. You glance at Rocky. Stillness incarnate. You take a breath. Then impulsively you place him in the center of the table. The room quiets. Eyes shift to the little gray figure that seems to command gravity itself. Seconds stretch. No one moves. Then Greg, the senior exec, leans forward. "You know," he says, "what we need right now is exactly that. A rock-solid base." Laughter ripples, easing the tension. Tanya flashes you a grin. You seize the moment. That's what this proposal is about. Staying grounded, focused, steady in uncertain markets. Heads nod. The CEO smiles. In a noisy world, clarity stands out. From there, everything flows: questions, ideas, genuine interest. You answer with calm precision, anchored by the silent strength sitting beside you. When the meeting ends, Greg pulls you aside. "Impressive work," he says. "We'd like to make Rocky official." You blink. "Official? How?" "As a team mascot. Maybe head of morale." He laughs. "He's our cornerstone." You smile. "He's been mine for a while." Greg claps your shoulder. "Then congratulations to both of you." Later, back at your desk, you rest a hand on Rocky. "You were unbreakable out there." You tell him. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Somewhere in the quiet between the tapping keyboards and the hum of the AC, you realize, in a world that's always rushing, the true power isn't in movement, it's in knowing when to be still. And Rocky, he's mastered it.